Get your engines revving. It's episode 11. This episode is going to be about being a good person. What does it mean to be a good person? Am I a good person? Do you think I'm a good person? If you don't think I'm a good person, why are you listening to my podcast? Maybe it's because you really don't like me and you just are here for the hate. And you know what? I'm here for that. I don't care why you listen, as long as you're listening. But the reason I wanted to talk about this theme of being a good person is because about a year ago, I came to the realization, the oddly, extremely comforting realization that I am not as good a person as I thought I was. And I'm okay with that. And this came out of, I'm sure you all remember. I think most of you probably remember during lockdown and afterwards and all of that, there was a lot going on social media in terms of kind of faux social justice. People making a lot of bold statements about that had to do with movements that were going on and trying to be very supportive, and also very much there was this kind of purity culture emerging of like, you're not supporting enough, or are you posting, or you said something wrong, or you said something wrong, or blah, blah, blah. When in the end, most people, at most, were only posting something on their Instagram. And how much is that actually helping anyone? When we know that what actually helps society is getting involved in mutual aid or getting involved in communities. I mean, if you really care, put your body where your mouth is, you know what I mean, and actually do something. Posting on social media is really, to me, it's very performative. And I'm not saying I didn't do it. You know, it's hard. It's a trap that you can very easily fall into. And I'm not saying it's always performative, but there was a performative nature to a lot of what people were doing, I think. Or I think it's performative when it's like you're not living the life you preach right now. And especially like if you're just calling out other people for not being good enough, how much is that actually helping? I don't know. I don't think it is. And I kind of realized that, I don't know, like ever since college, I thought, I'm a good person. I want to change the world. I want to help everything. You know, I believe in this and this and this value, and I'll fight for it for the death. And I used to go to a lot of protests, you know, and I still went to one protest in LA when one of the Black Lives Matters confrontational moments was going down, and I'm glad I went. But I also left at the right time because I'd been to a lot of protests and I'd seen this all go down before in Montreal. And I know when the vultures start circling, it's time to go, and leave it to the professionals. And you know what? I have not devoted my life to social activism. And that is just the reality. I am a comedian. I work on a micro level to make one room at a time, one night at a time, have a little moment of levity. And that's all. I'm not bigger than that. And I kind of decided right around that time that I was done pretending like I was any bigger than that. Especially when it's like my education on all these matters is not on the level that it should be. Like, I come from a very specific background, privileged, Canadian, you know, in this American soup now. And there's a lot of things that I don't understand. And it's like, and me getting more involved in all of my ignorance probably won't be that helpful, to be honest. Or maybe it would. Maybe I'm wrong. And if so, maybe somebody will tell me someday. But what I kind of decided was, I affect things in the way that's comfortable for me, in the sphere, in the amount. Like I'm not, I don't know, I guess it's the maniacal, what a word. Ego left over from my early 20s of like, I can change the world. And I think I've kind of abandoned that in the face of like, I can make one or two people's days a little better one day at a time. And that's about it. And that's enough. And that's okay. Which is very hard to accept when you're constantly fed this barrage of fucked up shit that's going on all over the world, and you're like, I should be doing things. But it's like, you know what? Most of my energy is caught up in just survival, and I'm older now, and that's like 95% of my energy is survival. It's cleaning, it's cooking. Oh God, I sound like a housewife. It's working on my comedy. It's doing this podcast. It's whatever I need to do to get to the next step, to make the next thing so I can feed myself and take care, have the quality time I need, check in with the people I want to support as much as I can, try to network, the like most impossible thing, and trying to psych my brain into being okay with networking. That's a whole other level of am I a good person, isn't it? There is a certain level of being a good person you kind of have to push away to try to be successful. And you know what? That feels bad and dishonest, and it's hard. So I look hard for people I can truly connect with in my field. And you know what? There's not a lot of them. But I'm looking. And hey, maybe I'll find someone and we'll make something amazing, and maybe I will be very successful one day. For now, I'm okay with being, not that successful, but enough money to survive. And that's okay too. So when we think about what does it mean to be a good person? Oh, what a question. I mean, I think in terms of the values of our society, people think it's kind of this Protestant feels like value of like, if you're hardworking, you're a good person. In this capitalist society, it's like if you're a hard worker and you show up. I don't know why I picture it like, like a rough trucker vibe, like you show up to work. You're a good person. You're working hard. Work is quite an ethic in our society. I mean, I don't know about that one. I mean, on the one hand, I like it in terms of like people with children supporting their families, working hard to support the family. But it's so sad in a way. Like, should life be that hard? No, of course it shouldn't, And the other one is like, well, I mean, our society also really celebrates anyone who's really wealthy and has won the game, because there's this kind of admiration of like, wow, I wish I could do that. And also, if they've won the game, they must be good at the game, and if we value the game, then that person's good at it. And then in terms of like interpersonal, I mean, I think being a good person, according to a lot of people, comes down to self-sacrifice. And that's not great either. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice. Who else is going to take care of that family member or this scenario? You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to show up and be of service, and that's great. But self-sacrifice to the point of being nailed up on a cross. I mean, I guess this is all getting very Christian in my mind, but I mean, that's not, you also need healthy boundaries, but it's hard because you want to be quote unquote a good person. You want everyone to think you're a good person, and that's where the ego starts to get involved. I mean, it's hard for the ego not to get involved with the concept of being a good person. And that's where I go back to that social media thing. It's like, I posted those things because I believed in them, but also I wanted to make sure everyone knew I was on the right side. I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't one of them, because there was kind of this like witch hunt vibe going on. And that sucks. I don't like I mean, I guess if you're doing the right thing, it doesn't really matter why. But I would prefer, if I was doing the right thing and being a good person, that it wasn't about someone else's impression of me. Actually, in Judaism, the highest form of charity is, or one of the highest forms, I'm not sure if it's the highest, is where the recipient or anyone else doesn't know that you've given them something. You just give it and there's no recognition. And isn't that nice? I mean, that's definitely a nice feeling when you can do something like that with no recognition, because then you just have the secret joy of being a good person. I mean, I think that's the ultimate best version of feeling like a good person. When you know you've done something good and no one else needs to know about it, it just makes you happy to be good in the world. It just gives you a higher sense of purpose and like just joy, you know? Then we get to obviously religion, which I've been hinting at the whole time. Where, I mean, Christianity is the dominant religion here. A lot of being good gets wrapped up in sexuality, doesn't it? It's like you're a good person if you're a family person. You know, you're a good person if you're a chaste girl, if you're a good girl, if you're not a slut. Which also to me is insane. Because life is meant to be enjoyed, and repression, I don't know. I think repression's really bad for society. Sexual repression. It just creates these frustrated, angry people that want to scapegoat people because they can't allow themselves to really enjoy their lives on the level that they need to. They came here to enjoy it. You know, hence, blah, blah, blah. A lot of problems over the years for all of us. So, yeah, I mean, I guess one of the things I'd want to eliminate in history is, Christianity's idea of, like, celibacy being good or girls being chaste. But that goes into a whole thing of, like, you know, how most STDs didn't have cures. And there's all this superstition probably wrapped up in it. I don't know. I'm not a historian. For me, being a good person means being honest, not to the point of hurting people's feelings, but standing in your truth, and being kind without being self-effacing, which is really hard. Because your ego wants to self-sacrifice so you can feel superior to other people. And then another thing that makes you a good person is if you do sometimes you got to do the hard thing, you know? Not the fun thing, not the selfish thing, the hard thing that needs to be done, that you're the only one who can do it. Sometimes it's tied to honesty, sometimes it's tied to being kind and taking care of someone. And that's hard. That's hard, especially when so many of our trauma responses are just to run away or space out, etc. To stay emotionally present with someone who's grieving. That's the hard thing. And I can't always do it. But I would love to believe that I'll get better at it throughout my life. Wow, I can't believe I said that, and then now there's an ambulance siren in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. You know, that's a good person who can take their day, bring someone some food or a coffee when they're mourning and sit with them and just stay emotionally present, even if it's going to hurt a little. You know, it's going to make you think of the people you've lost in your life, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But it's not to the point of being self-effacing or to be like, I'm such a good person that I did this. Just to the point of staying with them, you know, and letting them know on a fundamental level that they're not alone. That's a good person. And in the end, being a good person, you know, in the end, like if you really think about it, in the end, being a good person on your terms of what a good person is the selfish choice if you have a conscience. If you don't have a conscience, no. I'm not talking to those people. I mean, maybe they're listening, but I'm not talking to them. But if you have a conscience, being a good person in the way that you believe a good person should be is the selfish choice, because in the end, those are the choices that you're going to be proud of. Those are the choices that you're going to feel good about yourself for. Those are the choices that are going to enrich your life and expand your consciousness and just broaden your sense of joy and connection in the world. And that can be a really beautiful thing.